It is Against the Mat, CHSR 97.9 FM in Fredericton, CHSRFM.ca. I am Drew.
I am Fred.
And I'm Ryan.
And we are being joined by the one and only, and it's been a long time since he's been with us.
It has been a long time. It's
so
nice to have him back. So.
I'm going to work on the last name, see if I can pronounce it correctly. It's been a while, but I believe we have on the line, all the way from Toronto, Ontario, former WWE referee, the one and only Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you? I just wanted to preface, I guess because we all live in Canada, we don't have to add Toronto, Ontario with that pause and then put Canada at the end, I guess.
You know, Tony Chimmel used to do it well because he actually would just not say Canada at all. He would just say from Toronto, Ontario, and then probably Superstar Edge.
Yeah, that's probably because Tony didn't like Canada very much, but that's okay. He's from Jersey, and we all know about New Jersey, so we don't even have to go there.
First of all, what even is New Jersey?
America's armpit.
What is it? Like, are you part of New York, or what are you? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. New York doesn't want them. Pennsylvania doesn't want them. Even Delaware doesn't want them. They don't want them so bad. They've only got their own little tiny state.
Yeah.
So they just kind of. I heard somebody there say the armpit.
Yeah, the armpit of America.
They're one of them. Yeah.
One of them. What's the other one?
I'm going to leave that up to the others to decide. I have several candidates in mind, but I'll just leave it at that.
I'm going to say Idaho. Other than potatoes, what's the draw? Tory Wilson.
They do potatoes. 6 degrees of separation. French fries, potato chips.
This is true. Yeah, you know what? I take it back. Idaho's
just debunked that.
It's a very serviceable state. Sorry.
That's what I do. I convince people to change their minds. There you go.
You should be in politics. My God, you're very good.
No, because I have this bad habit of being brutally honest, so that won't work.
Yeah, you wouldn't last very long at all, would you?
No.
Hey, man, maybe in your province you might go far. It seems like it doesn't matter what you do in your past life. You can make it pretty far.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter in your past. It doesn't matter in the present or what you claim you're going to do that you know damn well you ain't going to do.
Exactly.
So, you can just make stuff up.
Hey, you can do things on tape.
That would work too, apparently.
Yeah. Very good. All right. The preamble is complete. Ryan, please take control of this interview.
Wow. So, Jimmy, you've been keeping busy. You're still one of the hosts of Aftermath, I see. Yeah,
still hanging in there. I guess I'm considered the OG there since now Anthony Corelli, the former Santino Marella, is aboard. Of course, Nug Nargang, who's been around for quite a few years now. And now Carolyn Schmidt has joined the crew with Jackie moving on to the NHL Network. So, we still have fun with it. That's how we treat it. We treat it as fun. At least I'm treating it as fun. I know Nug is as well, and Carolyn's enjoying it too. She's a little baptism by fire throwing her in there with us, but we enjoy it. We enjoy wrestling, and we enjoy talking about wrestling, and hopefully it translates to the viewers, and they can see that.
So coming back full circle real quick, you mentioned we were talking about New Jersey there a second ago. Arda O'Cal. He covers the New Jersey Devils. So there we go. He covers the New Jersey Devils for, was it the MSG network now, I think?
Yeah, he does stuff within the MSG network. ESPN podcast he does, I believe, too, as well. He's got a lot of, what is it? Irons in the Fire? Is that
Irons, yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
He's doing well.
I get all mixed up because, it's funny because my wife is from Quebec and then her family tries to throw some of those euphemisms out there, but it gets stumbled. They like the two in the hand that gathers no moss. And I'm like, what? Did you, what? Yeah,
oh, my God. That's okay. These two guys are from Quebec, too, so I feel your
I don't
pain.
even know what he's talking about, so I'm good.
Sure. Fred, he gets it.
So, Jimmy, are you still doing the Aftermath? Is it just after SmackDown on Tuesday nights, or are you doing it after Raw as well?
Well, so far it's now moved to before SmackDown. It's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Sportsnet 360. So we're kind of like the lead-in.
Okay.
SmackDown. I'm still pushing for I'd love to do a post-Raw one like we used to do with Arda. Even if it was on just Sportsnet Radio or or even on web or whatever, but then again, I get it. Sportsnet has a lot of properties. They have the NHL and now Major League Baseball coming back. There's basketball playoffs. Apparently curling is really hot too. They do good ratings. So.
Yeah. Curling is over. It's gotten over.
Well, I guess to me, curling is the Roman Reigns of sports because I'm not buying it. I don't know.
It's pushed heavily, but no one cares. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's still over. But I refuse to believe. I refuse to believe that it gets the ratings it does.
Well,
fair enough.
Seeing as he segued right into Roman, let me ask you a quick question. Where do you sort of stand on this whole supposed steroid issue that's popped up?
I'm one of those people that you hear stuff, and until otherwise proven, it's just an allegation. And you can weigh all the different rumors out there. It's a guy who got popped. He's in prison. He's making claims and accusations. So you can say, well, he's just trying to, make a name for himself while in prison. I don't know. I don't know the circumstances.
So, innocent until proven guilty, then.
Exactly.
Okay.
And unfortunately, especially with the advent of anti-social media, it appears that if you are someone that is on your S list, if I will call it now because we are on radio, if you're someone who you don't like, you're automatically convicted in the court of public opinion.
This is true.
But if it's somebody else who you tend to like, you come up with all kinds of defenses for that person. For me, I'm one of those people who I don't make a comment until the facts are in. Until those facts are in, I don't know.
So, I mean, it's probably safe to say that if, say it were, I don't know, Daniel Bryan, whose name had been floated out there, then probably people would have a much different reaction.
Yeah, if it was him, it would be, oh, no, I believe Daniel Bryan, but nobody believes Roman Reigns because there's that anti-Roman sentiment out there. So, again, for now, he says he has no idea even who this guy is or never heard of his company before. And it's basically he said, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it does put the company in a bit of a precarious position, especially considering their biggest show of the year is coming up in 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and the guy's in your main event, and there are these very public allegations being made against him. Even if they are false, it still kind of hurts his reputation in a way. Public, it's bad PR, is what I'm saying, going into your biggest show of the year. So.
I get that point, but at the same time, I look. It's the court of public opinion that sees it as a negative right now. Obviously, with something like that hanging over the company, it's an issue. But at the same time, I feel like if there was something there, this guy, whoever supposedly has this bombshell to drop, has been teasing this bombshell for how long now?
Yeah, it's been a few weeks.
Is he going to magically pull the trigger the day before WrestleMania and try to blow everything up? Is that his end game? I have no idea. And then, if he does do something like that, how does the company defend itself in less than 24 hours? Or how does Roman defend himself in less than 24 hours? So is it like an intentional trying to derail something? I don't know. Something just smells. I would just say this. Something smells fishy about this whole thing to me.
It's a bit bizarre.
Because to me, if it was me and I was trying to get that information out there, I would get that information out there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hum and ho and I'd try to tease it like some storyline angle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing, it seems like, yeah. This John Bravo character is... And they threw out the name Luther Reigns as well, I guess. He's been implicated in this, and there's some other guy that they have yet to name that has supposedly spent $140,000 on their product or whatever.
Yeah. So why all the secrecy all of a sudden? The one name they throw out there is Roman Reigns, who is the diehard fans' public enemy number one.
Yep.
Luther Reigns, who hasn't been heard from in since before I left.
Yeah, 2005 or something. Yeah, it's been a while.
Exactly. So I don't know.
So sticking with Roman then for a second, do you like the way they're trying to build up this program? Because, I mean, let's face it, Vince is going to throw Roman at us until we've basically had enough and probably succumb to Vince's will and say, okay, we all love him.
That's a Jedi mind trick that Vince pulls on people.
Yeah. Do you like what they're doing this time heading into Mania?
I do, because it's starting to sway some of those people with that Jedi mind trick. I mean, what they've done now, they've portrayed Brock Lesnar as the guy who doesn't have a passion for this business and is there for the money and taking advantage of a lucrative contract and limited dates and yada, yada, yada. And Roman Reigns, as a matter of fact, even though he's portrayed this way, he truly is a guy who lives and breathes the business. You know, he's got a passion for it. It's in his blood.
Yeah.
It's what he wants to do. And, and he works just as hard, if not harder, than everybody else. He's now become a locker room leader. It's funny because I still don't totally understand the anti-Roman sentiment, because pretty much everybody in the locker room sees the same thing that Vince does in Roman Reigns, and they see him as the guy. But for some reason, the fans don't, or either refuse to see it or don't want to see it because of some notion that Roman Reigns is the hand-picked guy of the company. He's being forced down our throat. We wanted Daniel Bryan. We got him. We don't want Roman Reigns, but we're getting him anyways. I got news for all those guys who think that he's being pushed, the hand-picked guy. Every top guy Vince has had on top has been his handpicked guy.
Yeah, Steve Austin was handpicked, and people seem to like him pretty good.
Yeah, I mean him, Rock, even Hogan. Hogan was Vince's handpicked guy. Plucked him out from AWA to make him his big star.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. To me, it feels like that if they'd have done all these storylines and all these angles with anybody else other than Roman Reigns, they wouldn't have a problem with it. But for some reason, they have this anti-Roman sentiment, and it all stems back from him not being Daniel Bryan.
Wouldn't it make sense, though, to go the route that they did with Steve? Well, The Rock, for instance, is a perfect example. He came out as that baby face, and eventually the fans just turned on him, and it worked. You put him heel, and then he came back as hotter than ever.
No, I understand that point as well, but it was a different time back then. People weren't as... let me put it this way. They weren't clamoring for The Rock to turn heel back then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, I can't stand this guy. He's not working as a babyface. I hate this white. I'm doing air quotes here. You can't see him because that was the old wrestling term. White meat babyface.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Bob Backlund type. Gosh golly gee, I'm going to do my best. They didn't like that, but they didn't say, oh, I want this guy to turn heel. Now they're running around screaming, Roman Reigns is a horrible babyface. We'd rather see him turn heel. Right. Why? So you can cheer him?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It makes no sense. Because that would be cool if he was a heel. No, heels aren't supposed to be cool. Heels are supposed to be booed. It's this weird dynamic that the fan has got a little bit of a taste of what goes on in the making of a superstar and what constitutes heels and baby faces, but they're trying to rewrite exactly what heels and baby faces are.
I got to ask you something as well, because it's been a while since we've had you on, so I'd really like your opinion on this. What's your take with looking at Mania and a lot of these guys who are going to be on the card who are not full-timers anymore? Cena, Taker, Brock, in the past Batista. Does Triple H's, Kurt Angle is... does this? Do you agree with what they're doing, or is it just because they don't have an established John Cena to take over?
It is what it is, especially now. I mean, if WrestleMania was a 3 or even 4 hour show, I would have more of an issue with it. But it is a very long show. It's going to be like 6-7 hours this year or something like. If you include the pre-show and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of room to get all the guys on the show. Having those guys on they're star attractions. They're big names, and that's what you want. And WrestleMania is now presented. It's almost like WrestleMania is the event, and the superstars are there just to enhance it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're basically bringing back all these legends who casual fans that may have tuned out of the product might tune back in to see, and maybe they'll the whole idea is, okay, we're bringing back so and so. Hopefully, the old school fans who enjoyed him back in the day will tune in, but maybe they'll see an AJ Styles and get into him, or maybe they'll see a Shinsuke Nakamura and get into him, or Kevin Owens, or whoever, younger stars that they're focusing on a full-time basis. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea is to try to get those fans that maybe tune in occasionally to stay tuned in and get invested in the quote-unquote full-time guys.
Yeah, it's just a random question that popped in my mind to do with WrestleMania. What is your take personally on the quote-unquote get everybody on the show match? It's this year, the last few years has been the Battle Royal. Years prior, they've done like huge 8-man ladder matches or whatever. What's your personal take on those types of matches?
I think it does, in a sense, a little bit watered down the matches a little bit, but at the same time, the sentiment is there. You know what I mean? It is Vince who does try to get everybody on the show as best he can. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And sometimes, to the detriment of the card. I mean, like, look at this year. We've got what looks like is going to be a triple threat for the U.S. title, and we've got a triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship.
Triple threat for the SmackDown Tag titles, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like. So...
two Battle Royals.
The two Battle Royals, which the Battle Royals traditionally for a long time have been the match to get everybody on the show.
Yeah.
But now you got a deep women's roster now, so now you have to add the second Battle Royal to get all the women on the show. It's I get it, but at the same time, it's almost like six of one, half a dozen of the other. It's a nice sentiment, but you know what? Not everybody makes the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yes. Thank you. I was that was my whole thing. Like, I always figured WrestleMania is like, it's like an all-star game. It is the best of the best that you put on that show. And no slight to anybody who doesn't make it. Not everybody can, not everybody will. But, it should be like the top 8, 9, 10 matches. So your top 20, 25 guys and girls that you think can put on the best show. But I do understand Vince's sentiment of wanting to get everybody on that show. So yeah,
it's almost like a reward for their hard work all the years, and also the fact, like you said earlier, that they do rely heavily on guys like Kurt Angle and Triple H and Taker and stuff like that. That they do at least want to find a spot for these guys. Yeah. I get that, but again, you look at the Stanley Cup, as I brought up earlier. Stanley Cup winners get their name on the Stanley Cup. If you go back and you look at some of the names on that cup and you go, he's got a ring? You know what I mean?
True.
So I get it,
So from your time there in WWE, what's it like backstage right now as we're heading on that road to WrestleMania?
How many Red Bulls is Vince pounding?
No, you know what? I think if he were to take a blood test, he'd be 90% adrenaline. Vince is still in his early 70s,
and 10% muscle milk.
The hardest working guy there. I wonder if he ever sleeps, if at all. Between being Vince McMahon, the company guy, and then Vince McMahon, the family guy, and I know he loves his grandkids and spends as much time as he can with them, despite his busy schedule. So. He's busy working on everything. The creative team is also busy working on everything, and the guys themselves. It's funny because from now it's still a couple of weeks away, but they're thinking in their mind, okay, this is the match I got at Mania. Okay, what can we do? What can we? They're already planning things out, trying to be different, trying to be creative, and trying to do something that'll stand out at WrestleMania.
They want to try and make their match the match to be. That's the match of the night.
Yeah, I mean, that should be everybody's goal, is to be the match that stands out the most. Obviously, sometimes that's not the role you're given on the show, but at the same time, you should be the guy, like in the famous words of Batista, follow that. You should be the guy going out there saying, follow that.
Yes. Especially, I mean, it's especially applicable if you think you should be in the main event and you're on fourth. So then you definitely want to come back and be able to say, follow that to everybody.
Yeah, that kind of gives you a little bit of a chip on your shoulder too. But when you look at WrestleMania now, especially in the last few years, you can make an argument for like 3 or 4 different matches that could end up closing the show. I mean, like, look at this year. You can put Roman Brock last. You can put the tag match with Hunter and Steph against Ronda and Kurt. Mm-hmm. You could even make an argument for Cena and Taker last. I mean, the two last icons left in the company.
Yep.
Other than Triple H, the two arguably two guys that can go on. I know some fans out there wouldn't put Cena on the Mount Rushmore, but you got to give him credit for
longevity.
Yeah.
Just
for what he's done.
Which one what do you want to see as the main event?
Personally, somebody asked me that on Twitter, and I don't, it doesn't really matter to me, but in a way, I do want to see Cena Taker last, because to me, those are two guys that will, have a match that will have great psychology, great storytelling. I'm almost positive that Taker will redeem himself from last year, because obviously he was hampered with some problems. He had hip surgery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he's a warrior, and he's a proud guy, and he's an old school proud guy. And knowing him, he's going to want to come out and really, like I said, redeem himself from last year. And also in there with a guy like John Cena, who he could have a comfort level with.
Yeah.
Put on a match like that, I think they'll be just fine, and I think it's going to be a lot more drama and storytelling than people would, it'll surprise a lot of people, I think.
The only thing that kind of I don't want to say worries me, but it concerns you, perhaps, is John Cena just hasn't looked that great since he's come back. I mean, it's wear and tear or what it is that's kind of holding him back a little bit physically, but he just hasn't looked that good. So I'm wondering if that'll, or if that's just something that'll melt away when he realizes, oh, it's WrestleMania, it's The Undertaker, I'm going to bring my A game. So
that's probably what will happen too, because I still remember in the past, you look at Kurt Angle, for example, even Eddie Guerrero back in the day, guys who at times were hurting real bad, and like once they walked through that curtain and hit that stage, it's like a switch flips, Kurt Angle had the nickname Cyborg because he was, he always looked like backstage he was in chronic pain, but once he walked out there,
it's like a switch.
He was a machine.
Yeah. There are a couple action matches on Mania that I personally am looking forward to, and both of them are on the Blue brand. It's obviously Styles and Nakamura, I hope anyways, could potentially be match of the night, but also the Asuka Charlotte one. I'm really intrigued to see that match.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because obviously Asuka's style is very snug, for lack of a better term, and Charlotte's not afraid to bring it either. So, her being so athletic, and Charlotte has become, if not the most well-rounded female performer on the roster right now, at least in the conversation for sure. Asuka, of course, she's fantastic. Obviously her only downfall right now is her ability to communicate, but she's working on that, and hopefully that'll come. But so far, I like the fact that they don't have her talking much and let the streak and her in-ring style speak for itself. So,
as an aside, to do with Charlotte, do you think Charlotte's the crown jewel of the Performance Center in terms of what the Performance Center has produced so far? Because she was 100% a novice when she started there, and that was only, 3 years ago, maybe? 3-4 years ago, and now here she is. And you just mentioned she's probably the most well-rounded female talent on the roster. Do you think she's like the gold standard for that Performance Center?
Wow, that's a good question, because I never thought of, like who would you, put in that spot. Obviously she would be, like I said before in the conversation, Charlotte definitely has to be in that conversation when you talk about crown jewel coming out of the Performance Center. She's the homegrown talent. The other one, there'll be other ones too. to come along. I see a couple in the works right now that I think have the potential to be, as they say, print money. But right now, so far, yeah, that's a good argument you can make. As Charlotte being the crown jewel coming out of the Performance Center so far.
Maybe Roman Reigns, but
yeah, but he's got a pedigree. Well, I guess
Charlotte does too.
But Roman did have some training before he got to the Performance Center.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
So Charlotte came in as a volleyball player and a cheerleader.
Yeah, she had no wrestling background at all, and she came in
other than the DNA.
Other than she's genetically superior, as is her catchphrase. So
there you go.
And that's legitimate. She's an unbelievable athlete, and it really is impressive how good she's gotten. Everything about it, like she's picked up everything. The presence, like she just feels like a star. She walks like a star. She acts like a star. She talks like a star.
She talks like her dad.
She got that from her father for sure. Yeah, no, it's
and that's what it is. If you come off authentic and look like you believe what you're doing, then the audience will believe it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like walking that fine line and making people have that suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Like I brought up the earlier days when fans were less inclined to be as snarky as they are now, and sometimes I feel like they seem a little entitled, and maybe that's just the old man in me. I'm turning into the old Clint Eastwood, get off my lawn.
Yeah, I was just going to say you're the get off my lawn guy.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think there is a little bit of merit to the fact that sometimes you don't always get what you want. You know what I mean? That's the way the world works.
Mick Jagger said it. Yeah, you don't always get what you want.
You get a song. Yeah.
What's that?
That'd be a pretty good song.
It would be. Someone should write it.
Yeah, I think they should.
If they ever get sober enough to do it, I'd be the first one to listen.
Ah, there you go.
Jimmy, there's one. We've had we've been doing this show for a while now, and one thing that I've learned with this is never to say never. And I just got to get your thoughts on the Hall of Fame's coming up and Jeff Jarrett's induction. Were you surprised by this one?
To be honest with you, no. Because I look in the past. I mean, you look at Iron Sheik going in after being fired, I don't know, a record 47 times or something like that, whatever it was. They managed to mend fences with Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Then they managed to mend a huge fence with Bruno.
Right.
Yeah. It was a huge fence with Bret. It was a huge fence to mend with Bruno. Warrior. Yeah. The late great Warrior. But anybody who comes back now, it's like, all right, cool. It's nice to see that. I don't know if Vince has softened on his stance as far as what he felt to be past indiscretions against him and the company. But he seems to be a guy who tends to forgive and forget. You know what I mean? Which is kind of cool. And I know that, especially in the Bruno situation, that Hunter had a lot to do with that, with brokering and getting those two back together. So Hunter is a great businessman, and if that day ever comes where Vince decides to hang it up, which I doubt, but he's going to go kicking and screaming if he doesn't sell his soul to the devil to live another 100 years and run this company. But it'll be in good hands with Hunter.
I think so. Yeah, he seems like he's a pretty damn good bridge builder. It seems.
Yeah, because Hunter was one of the boys, and he I don't know, maybe that makes a little bit of a difference.
Different rapport, maybe. Like maybe he's an ability to sort of talk at their level, not the intimidation factor, perhaps, or the preconceived notion that you might have with a Vince, who's, Vince's quote unquote office, as everybody was inclined to say at one time. Hunter, like you said, one of the guys you could talk to him.
And to some extent, Vince sometimes you'd get that aura from him, like, ooh, he's the boss, and he always exuded that aura. But at the same time, Vince always tried to make people at ease, but still had that presence about him where you knew he was the boss. Whereas Hunter is, a little more relaxed, a little more approachable, like I said, more like one of the boys. Even though Vince technically he is the leader of the boys.
Yeah. I mean, how much more of one of the boys could you be than, sharding in Gerald Briscoe's face?
Mm-hmm.
That happened. Vince did that. So
well, it kind of emptied out Gorilla really quick. But anyways,
yeah, I bet. Vince.
So Jimmy, I got to ask you now, with regards to Mania, when you were going down to the ring to work whatever match it was you were scheduled to work, that first time through the curtain, were you just going, I can't believe I'm doing this, look where I'm at now?
All the time. Every WrestleMania, every year, every WrestleMania I did was the same thing. The first one I did was 4 Trump Plaza, which was a smaller venue, but it was like, I can't believe this. Then I turn around, and little did I know back then that sitting front row, I'd be looking at the current president of the United States, and yeah, kind of shocking now, but anyway.
Yeah, I'd say.
But it's incredible, and then you walk out to the ring, and there's like 70 or 80,000 people out there, and you're going, oh my goodness, like this is incredible, and you get nervous, but it's a good nervous.
Mm-hmm.
It's an excited nervous, and you get goosebumps, like literally get goosebumps, and then you're standing in the ring, and then the Undertaker's music hits, and the flames. You're standing 75, 80 yards away from the ramp or the stage, and his pyro goes off, and the flames are shooting up, and you could feel the heat down there. That's how warm it was, and you're going, man, this is cool, and then all of a sudden reality kicks in, and you go, okay, I got a job to do. Crap,
you got to go to work. Yeah,
I got to stop enjoying this.
What was your favorite match you worked? You worked in your entire career for Mania?
Had to be probably that one, Edge and Undertaker, WrestleMania 24.
Yeah.
It was last match. It was main event. It was part of the streak. Having someone like Edge in there with, who is a good friend, and the Undertaker, who I'm an Undertaker guy. I've always been like almost since day one, since he debuted. So the most respected guy ever in the locker room and so forth. So. And to actually be requested for that match, it just added an extra, a little bit of pressure on me, and at the same time knowing that I'm going to get the big boot in the head from the Undertaker.
I was just gonna say you took a hell of a boot to the face.
Yeah, it's like I wear it like a badge of honor, like people go, you got kicked in the face by the Undertaker. I said, yeah, man, I got kicked in the face by the Undertaker.
That's pretty
so cool.
swell.
And they're like, did it hurt? I said, I don't know. The adrenaline was running so high, I don't know. I just it hit me, and I just said, I better go down.
You bumped like an SOB for that spot, though. I'll give you that. That was.
I didn't want to look. Here's the thing. I didn't want to look at the boot coming because, natural reaction is, especially for someone like me who doesn't take a boot very often, is to flinch and to move and to try to avoid it. So I figured I'm just going to look east, and he's going to come from the north, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And there was that big size 15 or 16 right there, and it was cool.
Jeez. That is cool.
You must have felt quite a bit of relief after that spot happened. It was pretty much boom.
Oh, yeah. But here's the best part. I'm lying on the apron, and I'm facing the crowd, and I'm trying not to overtly stare at them, but I'm looking at the crowd, and I don't know what's going on behind me, but I could kind of see them reacting to all kinds of stuff, and then Edge comes over to kind of see if he can grab me, and touches my back, and I roll off the apron to the floor, and I could hear the front row laughing, which was kind of funny. But yeah, that was a very cool moment for me.
You didn't see Charles Robinson gun it down to the ring?
No, I had to watch it on replay, and I was it was fantastic. I was like, after I saw it the next day in catering, I was like, oh man, that was so cool. It was funny. Real quick story here, because pulling back the curtain a little bit, we were discussing who would be the guy to run down to do that spot after I got kicked in the head. We all looked at each other, and just everybody almost at the same time said, Charles, there's nobody else. Nobody else would make it. half the guys would stop halfway, take a deep breath, and have to start again. And so Charles, he was the guy who used to run 2 miles a day and stuff like that. So,
jeez,
he was the only choice.
That was a hell of a performance. That run down the aisle. I remember seeing that live as it happened, and I was like, my God, this guy.
And the slide in the ring was amazing. People remember the run, but they forget the head first dive into the ring, sliding right into position for the count. My favorite video that I've ever seen of it is him running down the ramp in slow motion to the music from Chariots of Fire. It was awesome.
Yes, that was pretty great. I remember, I heard Kurt Hawkins, because he and Zack Ryder did a run-in or something in that match.
Yes.
And they were saying, I think it was like the day or 2 days before, they were doing the run-through, and they made Charles Robinson do the run like 3 or 4 different times, all the way down the ramp, back up, do it again. Like, poor guy.
No, but like I said, he was the only guy who could probably do it.
You're saying Mike Chioda couldn't pull that off?
Never. Never. He'd stop halfway and he'd stop about halfway for a Newport, and then continue the rest of the way.
How far would Chimmel make it?
Chimmel would get to the stage and throw up his hands and go back.
Aw, poor guy.
I bug Chimmel. I rip Chimmel. He's my. If I was Mick Foley, he'd be my Al Snow.
Yes,
it's a good analogy.
As a wrestling fan, then, do you have a favorite Mania match?
Yeah, like it's a 1A and 1B for me. The first Undertaker Shawn Michaels match would be 1A, and then 1B would be the next year, or Shawn retired, because for me, it was the closest thing to a perfect pro wrestling match in terms of, entertainment value and storytelling and psychology and two guys being masters at telling stories in the ring. Mm-hmm. It obviously, to me, there has never been a perfect match, but if there has been, this was in the WWE as close as it gets. And then the next year, a lot to live up to because of the, how good the match the year before was. And I thought they were different enough in that one but also at the same time, just as good.
Yeah.
And it's
those two. I mean, there's others. There's Brett and Owen from WrestleMania 10 that stands out in my mind. Obviously WrestleMania 3 was Savage and Steamboat, but that one lost a little bit of luster for me when I, heard from Ricky that whole match was
laid out,
written out by Savage. So
yeah, I remember Steamboat saying one time that as much as he loved the match, because that's the match that most people remember him for, he said that he had like at least 24 better matches with Ric Flair where they said nothing beforehand and went out and just called it in the ring, as they say.
Yeah, all they had was the finish, and some guys, I think there's a little bit too much of a tendency to map out a match from start to finish nowadays, especially with the younger generation, the guys who haven't had the benefit. That's the thing, though. They haven't had the benefit like the so-called old-timers have of going through different territories and kind of learning on the fly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now it's a little more structured, and I get that, but at the same time, sometimes it just looks too much like a dance and not enough like a
fight.
Arn Anderson said it best one time. He said, sometimes if everything looks too pretty, then it looks too choreographed. Sometimes a little hiccup here and there makes it look more real.
True. I mean, yeah, if you watch a boxing fight or if you watch an MMA fight, it's certainly not pretty. It doesn't look like a dance. It looks like it's two guys trying to beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, in boxing, you don't see two guys, okay, we'll trade punches now.
Yeah, or try and hit or duck at the same time and then, go for a Texas cloverleaf or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you said that because somebody asked me the other day, he says, I'll tell you the truth, does the figure four really hurt? I said, well, think about it. If you want to apply enough pressure, you can snap someone's knee or ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Is really? And I almost thought about putting one on him, but I figured, nah. wouldn't look good in a mall parking lot. So what the hell?
In a mall parking lot, yeah, you don't want to do that.
This is a guy. I just random guy just asking questions.
Jeez. Was it Doug Ford?
No, I don't think he. I don't think even Doug Ford knows anything from professional wrestling. But anyways.
Wow.
Let me ask you one quick question here to follow up with the Undertaker. He's going to wrestle Cena this year. Do you think that's it after that? Like, he's basically wrestled all sort of the big names that we're hoping he would get a chance to.
Yeah, obviously, as the ship has sailed with a match between him and Sting, so that's not going to happen. John Cena's the only big name left that he hasn't really wrestled at a WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see why not. I think it's the perfect matchup. Like I said, if this is going to be his swan song, and I a lot of people have been clamoring. They maybe because of the hat, the gloves, and the coat that he left in the ring last year. That maybe this signifies the return of the badass Undertaker on the motorcycle, which I don't want to see because to me. If this is the end of his career, it should come full circle.
Yeah.
So for me, the Undertaker I want to see is the one in the original Undertaker with the gray gloves and the spats and the ascot and kind of like bringing it full circle. Kind of like Hulk Hogan did. Hulk Hogan went from red and yellow to the NWO, and then to end his career, he was back in the yellow and red, and that's kind of like what I want to see from Taker.
He should come out in a hearse too. Why not?
Yeah, and you know who should bring him out? Brother Love, since he was the original manager.
True. And obviously they have they're on decent terms with Mr. Pritchard because they brought him in for Raw 25 a little while back. So
exactly, and who knows? I hear he's going to be in New Orleans that weekend. So
of course he's everywhere.
Yeah,
that guy. He's getting himself over. I'll give him that. He's...
Yeah, I give him credit. He's a good storyteller. That's why. And
he is for sure.
Yeah.
Question for you: do you think Brock resigns, or is he going to UFC?
It's funny because it's going to be an interesting bidding war, but at the same time, it's going to be totally dependent on what Brock wants. I mean, obviously, the schedule's going to be a little different in WWE than it is in UFC, but the training in UFC is so much more intense, and let me put it this way: in UFC, let's see, he can make in one fight more than what he can make in the WWE in a year. So he has to take that into consideration, but he also has to take into consideration he's 40 years old now.
40, going on 41.
Yeah, which in MMA circles, unless you're someone like a Couture or a Fedor, it's kind of maybe past your prime when it comes to mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
I think he's better suited for pro wrestling, because on the off chance that you do get hit in the face, you can always punch him back and say, slow down.
Yep. Like he did. Like he did to Strowman.
Yeah, it's like...
Poor Braun. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I felt bad for Braun, but at the same time, it's a little bit of an education, too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you got to know you don't knee Brock Lesnar as hard as you can in the gut, which he had surgery on a few years back for diverticulitis, and not expect to get punched in the head.
But I don't know if it was as much the well-placed knee as it was. The shots were coming rapid fire.
True. Yeah.
And it just looked like the adrenaline got the best of Braun in that situation, and. Sometimes Brock's not the first person to slow someone down like that.
He might be the most effective.
I doubt he'll be the last.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Ronda? How's she going to make out in the WWE?
Again, if she could just not be so hyper, because in her first kind of interaction with Stephanie, where she kind of grabbed her and manhandled her a little bit. Kind of rushed it a little too much, if you know what I mean. Trying to like when you grab someone's arm and you try to get them to do something, you have to give them time to follow along, so to speak. And,
right.
Yeah.
She's used to making people follow along.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So it's a transition, and she has been training. I know she gets it, but again, when you're fresh to something and you haven't been doing it a long time, that adrenaline takes over, and you sometimes want to go faster. Sometimes, chasing, But I think she's going to be fine. She so far on the mic, she hasn't been too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep waiting. I've heard people say, well, maybe Paul Heyman could be a mouthpiece for her, and if anyone is to be, then he would make sense, because if there's anybody, if there's a problem with her getting over, Paul will get her over.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, he would.
So, Jimmy, listen, we're getting near the end of the show here. I got one more question for you. Prognosticating, looking ahead in your crystal ball from Monday Night Raw after Mania through till next year's WrestleMania, 2 guys who you think will step up and be the 2 guys, if you will.
Other than the obvious push going to Roman?
Yeah.
Elias?
Oh.
Yep. I expect big things from Elias, because there's a young gentleman who gets it, and if I had to pick one more guy, too soon for him, but maybe not this year, maybe after next year's WrestleMania. And he's really, really young, the Velveteen Dream.
I was thinking him too. Actually,
I don't want to see him come up this year, because I think, give him another year in NXT to really hone. He's so young. He's like 22, 23 years old.
Yeah. He's
so young, and for a guy that young to have that much poise and that much confidence in his character, he could only get better. And another year of seasoning down there also will make him hungrier.
Yeah.
So that when he gets up, finally makes it up, and hopefully next year he does make it up. I see this guy as money.
Yeah, he's got charisma.
Yeah, he
crazy amounts of charisma.
Oh, yes.
One last question for you, and then we will let you go. What is your take on the upheaval that is happening right now when it comes to the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal? There's a lot of upheaval, as I mentioned, about naming the Battle Royal after Fabulous Moolah for some of the things that she's done throughout her lifetime. Where do you stand on this?
Again, it's one of those situations where I'm sure and I'm not downplaying any of that past, whatever it happens to be. I was not a witness to it. I've only heard the allegations again, but not everybody is squeaky clean, and sometimes some people. Again, we live in an age where people look for things to be outraged about, offended over, pissed off about, and a lot of these people that are complaining about the Fabulous Moolah being named in the Battle Royal are also people who don't understand why a murderer is not in the Hall of Fame. These
very
are guys,
good. That's very true.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're screaming over a president who is in the Hall of Fame, because you don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you're touting the exploits of someone who because of what he had done in his past outside of wrestling, you're excusing that and saying his career should speak for itself and he should be in the Hall of Fame. To me, you can't separate the two.
Right.
So which is it? You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're outraged over one thing, you have to be outraged over all things. And again, the Fabulous Moolah thing, it's for me, it's not a hill to die on. Anyways, there's much more egregious stuff going on that should be addressed, instead of people always looking for something to be
negative about.
Exactly,
yeah.
Or just want to be outraged about. Very good. Jimmy, thanks very much for joining us again. It was great having you on, and we got to make sure it's not as long between appearances next time.
Oh, absolutely. Always great talking to you guys. It flew by. The first period of the game is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I have on in the background. It's on mute. Don't worry.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Yeah, because I don't want to get distracted too much.
True. True. Exactly. All right.
Again, I can't help it. I'm a diehard Leaf fan. What can I say?
I got you. You should see what I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, you're forgiven.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
good.
he's a Habs fan. He's got nothing to cheer about.
No,
so.
I don't. It's all...
Well, this year, but you know what? That's why I'm not saying anything, because all those years we were getting
Truth.
chirped and, hey,
I don't say anything
Right there.
either. I don't
Right
say anything
there.
either.
That's
But I
exactly-
will.
Yeah.
But I will support them when they're doing well and when they're doing awful. So
And hey, Jimmy,
what you got to do?
enjoy WrestleMania, man.
You guys too. It should be. You know what? It should be a really good show. Long, but good.
Yeah.
Long but good.
Yes.
There's some things that could be said about that. I'll just leave it unsaid.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy. You have a great one. All right, buddy.
You too, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, man.
That was Jimmy Korderas, former WWE referee, host of Aftermath on the Sportsnet 360 television network, which you can see every Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Time on Sportsnet 360 before SmackDown.
Yeah.